The primary, secondary and tertiary activities represent various business types and the goods they procure and sell in an economic setup. Each sector is interdependent on the other so that the economy as a whole function properly and efficiently. The primary activity is where the raw materials for the secondary sectors are gathered. In the secondary sector, the product is then made into consumable item which is then distributed by the tertiary sector. On completion of this lesson, you should be able to understand the various types of human activities, to examine the individual types of economic activities and understand the chain of production. These are directly depend on the environment, as these refer to utilization of earth resources such as land, water, vegetation, building materials and minerals. It thus includes hunting and food gathering, pastoral activities, fishing, forestry, agriculture, mining and quarrying. People engaged in primary activities are called red collar workers. The primary sector is the sector which is largely dependent on the availability of natural resources in order to manufacture the goods and also to execute various processes. The services in this sector are entirely dependent on the availability of natural resources in order to keep the day-to-day operations running. The major problem that is this sector faces is the underemployment and the disguised employment. The underemployment accounts for the workers not working to the best of their capabilities, while the latter accounts for the workers not working to their true potential. As a solution to the problems, the state as well as the national government can increase the funds for the irrigation facilities and provide loans for buying high quality seeds and fertilizers. Hunting and food gathering. These depend on the immediate environment, depend on animals they hunt and edible plants which they gather. The primitive societies depend on hunting and gathering and also fishing. Fishing is the oldest occupation practiced in harsh climatic conditions. It depend on animals for food, shelter and clothing. Small capital, low level of technology and practice mainly in high latitude areas such as Eurasia, southern Chile and low latitude areas such as Amazon, Congo, Southeast Asian countries. In modern markets, some gathering is done such as leaves, barks, nuts, fabric, rubber, gums, resins, etc. Coming to pastoral nomadic herding, herders depend on animals for food, transport and shelter and clothing, and they keep on moving from one place to another along with their animals. Each nomadic community occupies a well defined territory and a variety of animals are kept in different regions. Places like Sahara and Asiatic deserts, sheep, goat and camel are famous. In Tibet, yak, Andes, llamas and Arctic region, reindeers. Coming to the regions, core regions extend from Atlantic coast of North Africa through Arabian Peninsula to central China. The second region extend to tundra region of Eurasia, while the third region is found in Southwest Africa and Madagascar. Coming to transhumans, the seasonal movement of people along with their herds to mountains in summer and plains in winter. Examples: Gujars, Bakarwals, Gadis and Bhotias in Himalayas. The number of pastoral nomads are decreasing due to various reasons like imposition of political boundaries, new settlement plans by different countries, commercial livestock rearing. It is more organized one and it is a capital intensive, mainly practiced in permanent ranches and larger areas and divided into parcels. and animals are moved from one parcel to another parcel. Number of animals are kept based on the capacity of the pasture. Animals like sheep, cattle, goats and horses and products are meat, wool, hide and skin, which is mainly practiced in New Zealand, Australia, Argentina, Uruguay and USA. The types of agriculture are subsistence agriculture. In that we can divide into primitive subsistence agriculture and intensive subsistence agriculture. In primitive subsistence agriculture, it is also called as shifting cultivation or slash and burn agriculture, practiced mainly by tribes in tropics where the land holdings are small and they do not use any fertilizers and they change the land frequently, approximately about every 5 years they come back. It is called by different names like Juming in northeast India, Milpa in South America, Ladang in Malaysia. Coming to intensive subsistence agriculture, it is mainly done in or found in highly densely populated areas and they are of two types. Again, intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by wet paddy cultivation. Here rice is the dominant crop and the land holdings are very small. Family labor is used, less use of machine and manual labor and the farmyard manure is used, while the yield per unit is high but per labor is low. Coming to intensive subsistence agriculture dominated by other crops and these are dependent on climate, soil, relief and these are mainly practiced in Southeast Asia where wheat, barley, soybean, sorghum are cultivated. In India, wheat is grown in western part of Ganga plain, whereas millets are grown in western parts of South India. Here irrigation is the mainstay and it is used widely. European introduced plantation agriculture. How this plantation agriculture started? The plantation agriculture was introduced by Europeans and mainly found in tropics and the important crops are tea, coffee, cocoa, rubber, cotton, oil, palm, sugarcane, banana, pineapples. Here we find large estates, capital, managerial technical support, scientific methods of cultivation and single crop specialization and here we find cheap labor and good system of transport and it is mainly export oriented. The example, the French established cocoa and coffee in West Africa, the British set up tea gardens in India and Sri Lanka, rubber plantation in Malaysia, sugarcane and banana in West Indies, while the Spanish and American introduced coconut and sugarcane in Philippines, Dutch started sugarcane in Indonesia, coffee fazendas are managed by British in Brazil. Coming to extensive commercial grain cultivation practiced in semi-arid lands of mid latitudes, wheat is the main crop. Apart from that, corn, barley, oats and rye are also grown. Large land holdings, machines are used, whereas it is a low yield per acre but high yield per person. It is practiced in prairies, pampas, velds, downs, Canterbury plains. Coming to dairy farming, it is the most advanced and efficient type of animal rearing and is a highly capital intensive. Animal shed, storage facilities, mulching machines are used. Special emphasis is laid on breeding healthcare and it is a highly labor intensive and practiced nearby urban areas and industries. Development of transportation, refrigeration, pasteurization have increased the marketing. Coming to Mediterranean agriculture, it is a highly specialized commercial agriculture practiced mainly in the countries around the Mediterranean Sea, also central Chile, Southwest Africa, Southwest Australia and California. It is an important supplier of citrus fruits. Viticulture is specialized in this region. The best quality wine is produced from grapes and whereas the low quality grapes are used for raisins and currants. Olives and figs are also grown. Fruits and vegetables are grown in winter which are great demand in European market. Coming to market gardening and horticulture, vegetable fruits and flowers are grown, small farms located nearby urban areas with a good transportation, which is very essential, and it is a labor and capital intensive. Here the irrigation is used along with high yielding variety of seeds, fertilizers and pesticides. Greenhouses and artificial heating is used in colder regions, and it is mainly practiced in Northwest Europe, Northeast USA and Mediterranean regions. Netherlands is famous for growing tulips flowers. The region where vegetables are grown is called or is known as truck farming. Coming to factory farming, it is mainly practiced in Northwest Europe, and it consists of poultry farming, livestock rearing. They are fed on factory feed stuff and carefully supervised against diseases. Heavy capital investment is involved, and veterinary services, heating and lighting is provided, whereas the breed selection and scientific breeding is very important in this type of farming. You might have heard about the cooperative farming. A group of farmers come together and form a society, pool their resources to get more profit. Individual farms remain intact, and the farming is a matter of cooperative initiation. Societies help farmers in getting agriculture inputs, sell the products at the most favorable terms, helping in processing the products at a cheaper rate, and it is mainly practiced in Denmark, Netherlands, Belgium, Sweden and Italy. Coming to collective farming, social ownership for means of production and labor, and it is also called as kolkhoz. It was introduced in erstwhile USSR. Farmers pool their resources like land, livestock, labor. A small land is allowed to retain of their own to grow their own crops. Yearly targets are fixed by the government. Government fixes the product rates, and whereas the excess produce is distributed among the farmers. The farmers are to pay taxes for their own land, while the members are paid according to the nature of the work, and exceptional work is rewarded by the government. So, it is a dual type of benefit for the farmers. Coming to the next activity, that is mining. There are stages of minerals like copper age, bronze age, iron age. The actual development started with the industrial revolution. Factors affecting mining activity: physical factors such as size, grade and mode of occurrence of minerals. The economic factors such as demand for mineral, technology available, capital, labor and transportation. So, let us find out about the various methods of mining that depend on mode of occurrence of mineral, and we can divide into two types of mining such as surface or open cast mining. It is the easiest and cheapest mining, occur close to the surface of the earth, low safety precautions, and you can have large and quick output. Whereas the second one, underground or shaft mining, vertical shafts to be sunk, minerals are extracted and sent to the surface, and it requires a specialized drills, lifts, haulage vehicles, ventilation systems, etc. This method is highly risky with poisonous gases, occurrence of fires, floods and caving leads to accidents. It requires large scale investment, and the developed countries are showing less interest, but developing countries are more interested due to large labor availability. Here we will be dealing with the manufacturing characteristics of modern large scale manufacturing, classification of industries. The economy in the sector is dependent on the natural ingredients which are used to create the services and products offered, and which at the end are used for consumption. In terms of value added to the products and services, this sector is the best sector. The major examples that fall under this category are transportation and manufacturing. Both these sectors, end product is the consumption by the people. This sector is responsible for the employment of almost all 14% of entire workforce currently working in India. The secondary sector also contributes to almost 28% of the GDP share. This sector is the backbone of Indian economy and there are more development and growth in the near future. So, in general, the secondary activities add value to the natural resources by transforming raw materials into valuable products. Manufacturing involves a full array of production from handicrafts to molding iron and steel and stamping out plastic toys to assembling delicate computer components or space vehicles. And here there is application of power and the production is in mass quantity and we find identical products with a specialized labor and a standardized commodities. Coming to the characteristics of modern large scale manufacturing units. Now, characteristics of modern large scale manufacturing. So, these specialization of skills, methods of production is involved, mechanization, technical innovation, organizational structure and stratification. There is uneven geographic distribution of these units and access to market and access to raw material are very important and access to labor supply, sources of energy, transportation and communication skills, government policy linked to industries. These are the important classifications. Now, coming to classification of industries based on size like the cottage and household industries, small scale industries and large scale industries, and industries based on input or raw material like the agro based, mineral based, chemical based, forest based and animal based. Whereas, based on output or the product we have industries like basic industries and consumer industries. When coming to ownership, we have public sector industries, private sector industries and joint sector industries. The traditional large scale industrial regions which are high proportion of employment, high density of housing, poor services or inferior quality is mostly found along with the pollution and waste heaps or debris, unemployment, immigration, derelict land areas are found in the region like the Ruhr coal field of Germany. It is one of the major industrial area where coal, iron, steel are the basis for the economy. Demand for coal declined, so industry started shrinking. Ruhr region is producing about 80% of steel production. Problems of industrial waste and pollution is one of the major issues, and apart from that new industries emerged in place of old industries such as car assembly units, chemical industries and universities. Coming to the concept of high technology industry, it is the latest generation manufacturing units with the application of research and development, high professional workers, basically the what we call as the white collar workers who share a large group, highly skilled specialists like blue collar workers. The robotics are used in the assembly line and it is mainly computer aided design, whereas the electronic controls are used and it is a neatly spaced low modern dispersed office plant and lab buildings. It is a planned business parks for high tech industries and which are regionally concentrated, self sustained, highly specialized technopoles. Silicon Valley in San Francisco, Silicon Forest near Seattle are technopoles. Coming to iron and steel industries, these are the base for the other industries. So, it is called as basic industry that provide raw material to other industries which are also called as heavy industry, which use bulky material and produce heavy materials. The main raw materials involved for these are coal, limestone, coke, iron ore and manganese. And the features for location of these industry are located nearby raw materials or near to the ports. Many steel industries are located near the markets and located nearby integrated steel plants for scrap. The distribution of industries. It is most complex and capital intensive industry. In North America, the USA, in USA that is North Appalachian region, Pittsburgh, Great Lake region, Chicago, Gary, Erie, Cleveland, Lorraine, Buffalo. The Atlantic region, Sparrows Point and Morrisville. In Europe, UK, Birmingham and Sheffield. In Germany, it is Duisburg, Dortmund, Dusseldorf, Essen. France, Le Creusot, Saint Etienne. In Russia, it is Moscow, Saint Petersburg. In Asia, Nagasaki, Tokyo, Yokohama of Japan, and Shanghai, Tangshan and Wuhan in China, Jamshedpur, Kulti, Burnpur, Durgapur, Rourkela, Bhilai, Bokaro, Salem, Vizag of India. Coming to cotton textile industry, we have three subsectors. Handloom provide more labor employment, semi-skilled workers, small capital, spinning, weaving and finishing of fabrics are important functions. Here power looms are used, mainly machines which is less labor intensive and high volume of production. Mill sector, it is highly capital intensive, produces cloth in bulk and it is mainly distributed in India, China, USA, Pakistan, Uzbekistan, Egypt. Egypt produces half of the world cotton, whereas UK, Northwest Europe, Japan produce textiles for importing raw material from other countries, and this industry is facing stiff competition with synthetic fiber. Now it is declining trend due to technology and it is shifted to less developed countries. The service sector is concerned with the intangible aspect of offering services to consumers and business. It involves retail of manufactured goods. It also provides services such as insurance and banking. In the 20th century, the service sector has grown due to improved labor productivity and higher disposable income. This sector contributes the largest in terms of share in GDP in India. The sector is also the service sector and is important when you consider the development of other two sectors. Like the previous sector, this sector also adds the value to the products. This sector is responsible for employing 23% of the workforce out of the total workforce currently working in India. The example of this sector is all service sector such as the retail, financial services, insurance, investment, leisure and hospitality, communication, IT, transportation, consulting, etc. This sector contributes to almost all 59% of total share of GDP in India. The main problem with this sector is that the jobs which involve with lower salaries do not attract much employment, and this remains the future dilemma as India is looking for double digit growth in the near future. So, what are the general features of this quaternary sector? Large number work in tertiary sector and medium number work in secondary sector. They include both production and exchange. Production includes provision of service. Output is indirectly measured in terms of wages and salaries. Exchange involves trade, transport and communication. Provide commercial output service. Specialized skills are involved. Types of tertiary activities, service sector. The service sector involves the tertiary, mainly the trade and commerce, wholesale, it is urban supply house, rural mandis. When we talk about rural, it is urban, that is chain stores, mail order, and the second type is the telephone and internet. It is more convenient for shopping, PDS, that is public distribution system or service, whereas in rural areas there we find the periodic markets. Coming to transport, we have road, rail, water and inland oceanic, and again in that we have passenger cargo and air transport. Coming to communication, the means of transport and the telecommunication, telephone, landline and mobile, and audio visual. In that we have films, radios, TV and print. In print again we have news and magazines. Coming to services, we have banking, insurance, real estate and personal service, private, government and NGO. Whereas coming to quaternary sector, it is information based and R&D based, whereas the quinary, it is a specialist, the decision makers, consultants, policy formulations. For example, tourism, tourist regions, factors affecting tourism, demand, transport, and tourist attractions like climate, landscape, history and art, culture and economy and empowered workers. Whereas quaternary activities involve collection, production and dissemination of information, production of information, research and development, specialized knowledge and technical skills apart from administrative competency. The quinary activities like the highest level of decision makers and policy makers, outsourced like the large number of call centers in India and China have opened. So, what are the advantages of this? It is cheap, availability of skilled persons, English language communication skills, out migrating countries. So, this includes the knowledge processing outsourcing and home shoring, business process outsourcing, availability of high skilled workers like e-learning, business research, intellectual, property and legal professions and banking sectors. Digital divide, the availability of information and communication technology, it is uneven in the world, it depends on the government policy. Developed countries provide, but developing countries still to provide the ICT to their people. Before concluding, we will again try to understand the difference in human activities in a nutshell, which are shown in a tabular form. Primary sector, it is known as the agriculture and allied sector services. This sector provides raw materials for goods and services. The primary sector is unorganized and uses traditional techniques. Activities in this sector consist of agriculture, forestry and mining. In most developing nations such as India, this sector is where a large section of the workforce is employed in comparison to developed nations. Coming to secondary sector, it is known as the manufacturing sector. This sector transforms one good into another by creating more utility from it. The secondary sector is organized and uses better method of production. It includes manufacturing units, small scale units and large firms and multinational corporations. The employment rate is in equilibrium as a specialized set of skills is required to find employment in this sector. Tertiary sector, it is known as the service sector. The tertiary sector provides useful services for the primary and secondary service sectors. This sector is well organized and uses modern day logistics techniques to perform its functions. Banking, insurance, trade and communication come under this sector. This sector's employment share has increased in the ensuing years. All the sectors work together to create economic chain of production. The primary sector gathers the raw materials, the secondary sector puts the raw materials to use and the tertiary sector sells and supports the activities of the other two. Many companies will have components of all three sectors, such as a dairy farmer who makes cheese and ice cream and distributes the products to stores for sale. Other companies may strictly focus on the particular aspect, such as manufacturing a particular kind of product only. Together, these sectors make up the backbone of the modern economy.